anyways, let's see this Japanese breeding visa they can by Japan.
Hey guys, by now I'm sure you've heard the rumors about Japan's breeding visas.
Yeah, I've
According
never
to
heard
the
of it.
internet, apparently Japan's population.
Wait, hold on. First, when was this video made? 2 months ago. So like, we're right now in March, February, and January, basically. Damn.
Decline is so bad that they're offering foreign men to come to Japan, enjoy the
Wow.
sights, enjoy the sushi, and make babies. Social media has been blowing up with these rumors, everything from tweets to funny.
Breeding visa available. If true, it is a new strategy for Japan to combat the declining birth rate. I'm sure the one sameness in this category, no other race allowed. Well, I mean, it's their country. They can do whatever they want. And I love Japan. I wouldn't mind partaking in this. But I mean, I'm 18 years old, so I'm legally capable of doing so, of going there. However, like, um, the thing is, the breeding visa, like, I bet they're all there. I feel like most people would go to Japan with the breeding visa, and I bet they probably will take whatever minimum government aid that will be given just to raise children, Japanese children or half Japanese children, um, half Japanese children. They will take any minimum aid, and the reason they will is because they love Japan so much, they love the culture, and they don't mind basically receiving so little aid, and because it's been their dream. However, this is a breeding visa. We don't know if this gives you any sort of like um, path to citizenship or path to resident or permanent residency at the very least. We don't know. Maybe you just come here, get the ladies pregnant, and then you're kicked out. We don't know. And also the declining birth rate of Japan. I personally believe that it has to do with the black companies. Basically, the black company is a term for companies that exploit their workers to the point where death happens. And it's literally, and it's not something like being forced to work at the coal mines. No, it's basically being forced to work from like, I don't know, uh 8 a.m. till like 10 p.m., for example. And sometimes they're even asked to stay longer than 10 p.m. And usually it should only be like 8 hours, and I think that's what the law requires. But these black companies, obviously, they like, they tweak the papers or probably bribe the officials just so that their companies stay afloat, and they don't get audited, and they don't get investigated and sued over like being exploited. And also in Japan, they have this mentality where like it's called the nail that stands out will get hammered back in. Basically, it's a sort of culture where, for the sake of harmony, people are willing to stay silent about their sufferings, which is really bad in my opinion. I don't think that's good. I don't think it's productive in any way for the society, because right now, like, look at where you are. You have a declining birth rate. You have I heard like they had like this Japanese like surveys found out that not a lot of kids are going to school or are being educated, and there's a high rate amongst kids in amongst kids, and I feel like that's concerning. That's definitely concerning, and I feel like it's because of the toxic work culture. Like you have the mom and the dad both working pretty much 24/7, not being there for the children, and obviously the children, they uh, even the boys, they need emotional aid. They need emotional support, because especially when they reach teenagehood, when they reach um, the age of puberty. Like so many things are going on, and they need a guide, and usually that is the mother or the father, but they're not available because they're working. And so these children gotta traverse through things alone, and they don't know how bad things can be. They don't know how to cope in a healthy manner with harsh situations, and that sadly leads to them taking their own lives. And that's because of the toxic work culture. So if Japan really wants to fix the declining birth rate, they gotta reform. They gotta go after these black companies and hold the CEOs, the owners accountable. They gotta put them in prison, not fine them, but put them in prison, because you do that to one or two, and everyone will and everyone will no longer exploit the workers, because no one wants to go to prison. No one wants. Fining, giving them a fine will be irrelevant, because then they will just pay it off and keep doing the exact same thing. It's just as there's a saying that I don't know who said it, but it's called that fines are punishment for the poor, not for the rich, and jail time is actual punishment for the rich, because they cannot even pay their way out. And in this case, it's basically corporate greed and maybe even government corruption that allows black companies to exist, and black companies to exist and as a result you have parents who are overworked, and that leads to children who are unsupervised, and that could either lead to children having bad lifestyles, and also having bad lifestyles, and not having that emotional support, that emotional guide that they need in order to work, in order to grow up as functional adults in society. And yeah, and I feel like the same is for like South Korea. Yeah, same thing is for South Korea and other countries. Why do you have a low birth rate? Well, you have parents who constantly have to work and don't have time to be with their kids, and don't have time to be with their kids, and then add that the kids have harsh, difficult times, and they don't have a proper guide, and sometimes they come to the unfortunate decision of taking their own lives, and sometimes it even goes with parents where they end up taking their own lives because it's so toxic. And sometimes these companies, these people, they're not forced to work, but they feel compelled because the pay wage is so bad that if they work the required 8 hours by law, they cannot even afford to pay the bills and raise their children, so they have to work 16 hours, 12 hours basically. So 2/3 of the day, when in reality should be 1/3. But yeah, there are so many bad things in Japan society that they could do, that they could improve. And I personally think it's like with the black companies, fix that, and allow and basically emphasize more in family time. Basically make it so that there's a balance between working and staying at home to raise with children. And I will emphasize about this. You don't have you don't need to have the mom to be a stay at home, or the father to be the sole breadwinner. You don't need to have that, and I also think that it's not necessary, because I feel like both mom and dad need to have the same amount of time spent with their children, because I feel like a mom and a dad, they both can bring a unique perspective and a unique experience that only, well, they can bring. Because obviously, men or women, they think differently due to the hormones, and they behave differently. And so those differences are good to be passed onto the children, even if they're like, even if it's a daughter, she still needs uh, a good dad, a good male figure. Even if it's a son, he still needs a good female figure, a good mom, basically. So yeah, there needs to be a balance between work and family time, basically. That way you do that, and also you do that, and you will have people having being able to afford having children, and you will afford and you will also get rid of and or decrease the amount of kids and adults that take away their own lives due to the hardships of their own lives. I feel like that's what Japan needs to do. Anyways, I talked a lot about this. Let's watch this video. It's only 2 minutes.
It means
So desu ka. So desu ka.
Oh,
So desu ka. So desu ka. So desu ka.
and even Joe Rogan mentioned it
What?
on his podcast.
Population is dying off. They ain't making babies.
They're actually asking people to come
Yo,
over there.
Rogan.
Make babies.
damn.
Here's what's actually going on. It is true that Japan's population
Essentially, remember that meme, Shinzo Abe? What does it say? Mr. President, why did you suddenly turn your head? Well, for a moment, I thought I heard the voice of an old. Oh yeah, Shinzo Abe. He was a good person. Yes, he has his own controversies with the United Church and everything. But it's the same with any politician. Not everyone is good. But Shinzo Abe, you gotta recognize he was very charismatic. And who could forget he literally popped up as Mario during the Olympics. This is basically very badass in my opinion. Very cool. Like, he's a gamer. A literal gamer, and it's sad that he got killed as a result. What? Sasuke, I'ma keep it real with you, Prime Minister. Ain't nobody gonna solve the declining birth rate. Shinzo. Oh my god, Shinzo ain't playing. Oh my god. Okay. Okay. Alright. Yeah. Wait, what? Hideo Kojima threatens to sue over false posts. Shinzo. What? I don't know what is going on. But whatever. Yeah, Shinzo Abe, he was a pretty wholesome person. He had his own controversies with the United Church and everything. But I mean, any politician will have their own controversies. So overall, it comes to basically how they made you feel, essentially. And personally, the fact that Shinzo Abe was very charismatic, and the fact that he, like that Mario thing, that he literally came out of a green pipe dressed as Mario with the next ball in the Rio 2016, basically announcing the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Like, that was cool, brother. That was amazing. Like, as a Nintendo fan who loves Mario, bro, man, that was something. And I wish a lot of politicians now would engage in the pop culture. And right now we're seeing that with like people like JD Vance and Trump with the memes and everything. And yeah, I know JD Vance and Trump. Yes, they're polarizing figures, definitely. But you gotta recognize that the memes are funny, bro. They're funny. Like him or hate him, they're funny as hell, bro. They're very entertaining. And I really wish more politicians all over the world would also like behave like that. Like, imagine that the next time elections are run, we have memes literally.
population is decreasing. In 2024, the number of children aged 14 and younger hit a record low of 14 million.
Whoa.
Meanwhile, the number of people aged 65 and older hit a record high of 32.25 million.
32.25 million and 16 million. Oh, wow.
That's a huge disparity. This imbalance is creating a massive worker shortage. With fewer workers to pay into Social Security, people over the age of 65 who are retired
Yeah.
are going to be in real trouble.
Yeah.
To address this crisis, the Japanese government decided to expand its worker visa program, offering 5 years instead of the usual 1 or 3. The goal is to keep the workforce full and the economy running. That's it. But of course, the internet had other ideas.
Oh, okay,
They
so it's a
decided to
meme.
start calling it the breeding
Okay,
visa, saying that the
okay.
Japanese government wants men to come here.
I mean, it is kind of true, to be honest. You know, you go there to Japan with the working visa, and maybe you meet a Japanese girl, a Japanese woman, and you fall in love with each other, and you have children, and hey, everything's wholesome, everything's nice. But we know how Japan has this homogenous culture, and we know not a lot of girls. Like at most, they would rather date the like white American European guys, because you know that they from the movies that they've seen, they think that they're the most handsome, and yeah, I don't blame them. But I feel sad for the Japanese girls who dream about these foreigners, basically like these white foreigners, because they expect this princess treatment. But my God, that princess treatment is dead. Chivalry is dead. Ain't no way, ain't no self-respecting man going to treat a woman like a princess unless he knows she is the one. And obviously, you do that to someone you meet for the first time. If you want to impress her, you will act like that. But then again, after you're in a relationship, the mask falls up, and you're no longer acting like a prince. You're no longer treating the girl like a princess. And that's just how life is, you know. And it's pretty much sad. But uh, I um I know Japan naturally, as they like the Japanese people will eventually open up their views and realize that the movies, what they see in movies, are not real life. And that's the same that many of us guys, girls, men and women will also be realizing with anime and K-dramas. What we're seeing on the TV does not happen in real life. No, life is not that interesting, unfortunately. But sometimes it is. But for a person's normal individual life, no, it's just a normal, ordinary life. But let's just hope everything goes for the best.
Repopulate the country, and then go home. I can see why this would get a lot of people excited, but it is completely false. The actual goal of this is pretty simple. Fill empty jobs,
Yeah.
and not anything else.
Yeah.
This rumor got so big that even some Japanese news stations had to publish
What?
stories saying that it was false.
Oh,
But hey,
wow.
social media has never let facts get in the way
No,
of a good
yeah,
story.
yeah.
I'm sure there was one Japanese government official who was in the back room maybe whispering to somebody saying, you know, if foreigners come here and stay longer, maybe they'll find love, get married,
Yeah.
and have babies, and in turn, increase the population. I'm sorry to have
Yeah.
busted anybody's bubble,
Yeah.
but the Japanese breeding visa
It's
rumor
not.
is
It's not real.
false.
Yeah, we
But
all know.
if you have
we
a
all,
skill
well
and you want
taught.
to come to Japan, now you can stay here longer. And if you find love and, I don't know, get married, then sure, increase the population.
Go ahead.
Thank you everybody for
Breathe.
listening. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And if you like
Yeah.
this video, please hit that like button.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's cool. It's nice. I've never been to Japan, but and I'm Peruvian. I was born in Peru, third world country, South America, and so far, in order to go to Japan, you need a visa from Japan, and due to the summit, the economic summit that there was between the Pacific summit between the basically the countries that share the Pacific Ocean, that includes Japan and Peru. Essentially, there was this talk that maybe Japan will no longer ask for visas for Peruvians, but so far there's been no news about that. But thankfully, I managed last year. I managed to naturalize as an American citizen. I have the American passports, and I looked up that apparently Americans can go to Japan for free without the need of a visa for I think 90 days, I believe. Let's see. Um, can Americans travel to Japan without a visa? Yeah, citizens of the United States do not need a visa for short-term visits up to 3 months, basically. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable to Japan. However, there are numerous strict conditions. Yeah, visa-free travel. Wait, what? Visa-free travel from the U.S. currently suspended. Passengers who have been, I have been fully vaccinated, and yeah, vaccines and boosted with vaccines approved by Japanese government who are arriving in Japan. Okay, wait. Passengers who have been fully vaccinated and boosted with vaccine with a vaccine approved by the Japanese government and who are arriving in Japan after October 11, 2022 will not require a pre-travel COVID-19 test. Oh, I mean, we're in 2025. It's been like 3 years. Yeah, it's been like 3 years. Yeah, no. Yeah, at this point, it should be fine to go to Japan as an American. And I personally, I would love to go to Japan, like after I graduate college, with my international business or business administration degree. I will be going to college 4 years, and after I get my certificate, my mom has promised me and told me that um, if I get that certificate, get that degree, she will pay for the trip over there. And like I personally, I'm excited for that when that happens. That obviously is an incentive. I will make sure to give it my all and get that degree at university in college.